It looks like we're about to say rest in peace to this character. Gurdon might be on a very thin rope. He might be having night-night very soon, because when it comes to My Hero Academia, there has been some character deaths, at the least for the villain side. We have seen some very brutal character deaths, so judging by how Horikoshi set up with the last chapter, how dark this arc was going to be with the whole assistant thing, I have some doubts that Gurdon is going to be able to make it out of this situation alive. I really do. But, okay, there's one big little detail I want to talk about that I think many could have easily have missed. And I didn't really catch it until I read the chapter through Viz Media, because I usually read these chapters from MS or, JBox, and then I wait for the official translation to come out for I can get, like, a cross-check to see how the translations vary. And after reading it again through Viz, I caught this time around how odd it was that Slide and Go was there. Now, many might say, what do you mean, Chibi? Why do you think it's odd that a hero is there to help out and stop villains? Here's the reason why I find it odd. Remember what the criminals said at the beginning of the chapter. They basically stated that they have been scoping out the place for weeks, they've been making sure that nobody was going to interrupt or do anything, and they basically were aware that no heroes would be around at that time. And so that is why they initiated and attacked like they did. Now granted, Bakugo and Todoroki did stall some time for a little bit, but even then, looking at Slide and Go just arriving like that perfectly soon as the fight ended was very odd to me. And what I mean by this is, I feel like Slide and Go is a rat, or someone that is a part of the CEO's group. Now let me explain why I think this. Number one, besides just the fact that the criminals said there should be no heroes around, because the unexpected can happen. So, Slide and Go could be there just because maybe it was just a rarity among days. But then, we also have to remember, as soon as he comes in, and you see the black market goods that the CEO put on these villains, how they just break instantly, he quickly just sweeps it under the rug. He's like, oh, it's just black market goods. You shouldn't expect them to be that good or whatever. They should break easily. And the way he quickly just dismissed their goods like that is just, it doesn't feel like proper hero work. It feels like he's not really concerned with finding out the truth of where they got this black market goods. That should be a very important detail to being a hero and stopping crime, because whoever is actually behind the scenes delivering these goods are very dangerous. They're powering up villains. So, Slide and Go saying that was also another little alarm bell ringing off, like, there's something odd about this man, like, just quickly sweeping it under and say, like, don't worry about it or whatever, and then the situation, how he pops up soon as they finish them off. What's up with that? What's up with that? So, that's my big point here. I feel like Slide and Go is potentially, he's probably working with the CEO. I have that feeling, because the CEO obviously would need people on the ground to watch. Maybe people that are traders to help out his products. So it does fit in. It's in line with that. And we do know that there is some heroes, not just villains, that probably believe in the Liberation Army. Or, believes in what they want. And so I could see heroes also being a part of that, but part of this, like, secret organization building up power. That is also a possibility. But okay, with that out there, let's get into one major detail. And what is happening to Gurdon. Now, Gurdon, as a character, he hasn't really been in the series much. When we really think about his overall screen time / panel time throughout the story, he's not really been that relevant for a long time. We've always seen him here and there. One of the only few times we really got to see him was when he introduced Dabi, Toga, and all of them for the first time to Shigaraki, and that was an incredibly long time ago. A very long time ago in the story. And we've seen him bits and pieces, but like I said, he's never really been that relevant. We didn't know too much about him. However, he was a very key part of the League of Villains, and giving them goods, telling them what's going on and stuff like that, setting them up with contacts. He was definitely someone very vital for their operation. So he's always been an important character, but we just didn't know much about him. And now, with this chapter, we got a few more details about how his character is. He is someone that is obviously he's a broker. He's someone in the underground criminal world selling goods and just, giving things to villains. Basically, giving them goods like, merchandise that can power them up, like maybe black market goods and stuff. And that's kind of what this new company is trying to do. They're trying to make goods for heroes, but they're testing it out on villains. And that's kind of what Gordon has been doing for a very long time. Before this company decided to come into his territory, he's been trying to sell goods, make a profit, help out villains, give them information, tips, etc., etc., and he kind of has had an affiliation with a lot of major things. And so seeing this man getting really upset makes sense. It's kind of like what you would see in criminal organizations like Mafia. When you walk in and get on their territory, rival gangs, they get really upset. Like, you're in my territory. Get out of my territory, I want to kill you. That's kind of how certain things happen. With gangs or, Mafia or whatever, they get upset. And that's kind of what's happening to Gordon. You have this big corporation that has muscle. They have money, time to be able to get things done. And someone that's kind of like by himself as a loner, Gordon really can't do much. He's kind of like a small business up against a massive corporation. And that's kind of the big picture here, is that he is being pushed out. All these underground brokers, criminals are just being shoved out of the market, and a main central force, which is this new company, the head, and that's leading the Liberation Force and all that, Destro's son, he is coming in and just stealing all this, stealing the revenues, stealing just everything from the villain side, and he's making a major profit. So it makes sense why Gordon would be a little bit upset about that, but it wasn't just that fact that made him really upset, it was the fact that they beat him and then dragged him there. So he does have this code about him, this villain criminal code, which does fit in line with his line of work. It's something that you would see, especially someone of his status, someone that is an information broker, or someone that is supposed to help out villains and give them, like, gear, equipment, etc., etc. It's obvious that he would have a certain code, and him not selling out his clients makes perfect sense, because in their world, trust is a big thing. Not many people trust each other. And with what he's doing, he needs to be able to walk a fine line to where he does business with these villains, but he doesn't reveal any confidential, information. It can't be something very critical. It should be from customer to Gordon. It should never be to where he's spilling secrets about other customers. He keeps that information to himself, because if he was to spill secrets constantly, he would become a rat, and he would probably disappear rather quickly. And so that is the thing here. Because of that, that's why he made a code. Why these type of crooks or villains would have codes is because they can't just willy-nilly spill the beans on things, because they wouldn't be trusted, they would get no business. And someone like Gordon that's been around for obviously a long time, to be able to get in with Kuro and actually get to introduce Dabi and Toga, obviously this man is very trusted. He's been around for a long time. That means that All For One potentially trusts this man. So, like I said, he has a really long track record that is probably very trustworthy, and that is why he was hired in the first place. So, that's the point here, is that the CEO is thinking that if this man probably disappears, nobody's really going to notice, because a common criminal disappearing doesn't really matter at the end of the day. That it wouldn't seem too suspicious. Oh, he just died, he's a criminal. And it still might be a thing. But at the same time, though, because of how probably trustworthy or key he was in the criminal world, with him potentially being out of the loop or dying or / dead, would make it to where there would be disorder. And there would be no trust. Someone new would have to take the place, which that's where the CEO would come in, which could easily mess with Shigaraki's group, which we know that's their objective. They want to infiltrate and take down the League of Villains. So this is all fitting in line perfectly, because he's already getting technically what he wants. Even if he doesn't get any information out of Gordon, having him out of the picture will force Shigaraki's group to find other business, to be able to get equipment for what they need. So that's where he comes in. So yeah, interesting. Very interesting turn of events with this chapter. I like that a lot from Horikoshi. It's making it very dire how things are really changing in the criminal world, and it will not be that easy going forward, especially for them. Now, another thing too, is that when it comes to the translations of the Gordon scene from, JB and, the Viz Media translation, from, I think it's JB, or was it MS? I forget exactly which translation, but the first translation I read, Gordon basically says, get back in the ball sack of your father. That's kind of what he says. And in the Viz Media translation, he's like, he just says something that's kind of not that bad. Nothing too vulgar, so to say. And I think Viz Media might have censored some things, because I saw some comments on Twitter that apparently the direct Japanese translation of that moment, it literally was saying "get back in the Kentucky," which is the equivalent to balls, basically. So Viz Media potentially censored that line, which kind of irks me a little bit, but the translation still was a lot better than MS or JB, but I don't like censorship on lines when it actually is in the manga. That's my personal opinion on that. Okay, so let's talk about the Todoroki and Bakugo scene. So Todoroki and Bakugo, they have a big moment, obviously. They got their license back, they stopped villains, and there's a scene that's very quickly, All Might tries to save this woman. He jumps in, tries to save her, and before something was about to fall on them, Bakugo saves them both. Now, this scene doesn't seem like anything too important. Many might just get from the scene that it just shows how weak All Might is. He really can't do much. And that is very important to the scene, yes. But there was another big thing about that scene that kind of references a previous event that happened a long time ago, kind of at the end of Season 3 of the anime. And that was when, after All Might lost his powers and Bakugo was training, you saw where Bakugo had some problems and some rubble was falling down and All Might was about to get hit, and Izuku came out of nowhere and broke the boulder with his new shoot style, his leg style, and he one-up Bakugo in that moment, and Bakugo almost hurt his idol. And that's kind of what that scene represented, that Bakugo came in and he protected his idol without Izuku being there, and he didn't allow him to come to harm whatsoever. And so, it's double meaning there. It's to show how All Might is weakened, obviously, and how he might be going through a lot of issues knowing now that he can't really help people anymore, he's more in the way, but also Bakugo made up for his mistake he made in the past trying to help out All Might this time around. So, just overall good character development for Bakugo, showing how much he's progressed. That's what the entire scene was really about. Gagan is actually fighting the League of Villains. Now, it's not really clarified what's really going on there, but if I had to assume anything, it's a training camp for them. Like, they're training. Because, as we know from what Horikoshi has been doing since the beginning, every time Izuku's group is progressing, Shigaraki's group is progressing. They are basically upcoming villains trying to become the #1 villains, while Izuku's group is trying to become the #1 heroes. It's kind of, like yin and yang. They're two sides of the same coin, and so every time we see Izuku progressing, we should expect the same from them. And so, they're going through a training arc as well. They're trying to get stronger, and that's kind of what that showed there. So, I wonder if we're going to get a little bit more details on that, or if we're just going to have a flash forward back to where we're at in present day, or are we going to stick around with them in the past and seeing kind of what techniques they're actually learning. Who really knows? But I want to end it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.